Success in farming is all about precision and efficiency, ensuring every seed, every drop of water, every nutrient and treatment counts. Terraplex Ag is helping farmers all over Iowa and the Midwest do just that. With precision ag drone technology and support from Terraplex, you'll boost your productivity and make timely and informed decisions, all while reducing your costs and increasing your profit. It's time to revolutionize your farming. Harvest the benefits with Terraplex Ag. Visit TerraplexAg.com.
My name is Joseph Hurst. I live in Ankeny, Iowa, and I'm a part of the PMBA program. I currently work as the Director of Sales at Stony Creek Hotels in Johnston, Iowa, and I chose the Iowa State MBA program because it just made perfect sense. About 2 years ago, I started this wonderful program, and I couldn't imagine not having done it. What has helped the most balance work, life, school, has been the people I'm in class with. It's great to go through questions, problems, study for tests, and it just makes the whole class so much easier. As a working professional thinking about doing an MBA program, I get night classes aren't everybody's dream. I get after a long day of work, you may not want to go do more, but it's worth it. You're going to learn a lot, not just from the professors in the program, but from the other students. They come from all walks of life. They are from different age groups. They're from different companies. They're from all kinds of different backgrounds. They've got all kinds of different stories. And after 2 years, I've made some of the best friends I've ever made, learned the most I've ever learned, and I can't imagine what we're going to do after we're done.
Chris Williams, Brent Blum, from the Wild Rose Casino Studio. It's Williams and Blum, presented by Mechdyne, on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.
All right, what's going on? Sunday night, it is the 22nd of September, 2024. I have actually been thinking about this. We probably should have date stamped podcast going back, 15 years, like with it, because at the time you don't put the year on it.
Yeah.
But it's like we've done a lot of shows on a September 22nd over the years, right? Like, you see what I'm saying?
I got you, yeah. The good news is the YouTube and the Apple Podcasts and the Spotify, they do that for you.
Oh, good point.
But
I don't know why you had to be an ass about it. You could have just...
This thing called the internet and artificial intelligence figures that out for everybody.
It won't be long, and the AI is just going to be analyzing the cyclones for you guys.
That's true.
Connor Moberly came into the game. He's from Sir Polk. Ankeny.
The horns sound good today, don't they?
Bring in the horns, baby. We love the horns.
Good.
Little English on a Sunday. I won't date us here, but I've been watching Brock Purdy's game. And we saw him live last week in Minnesota, and he lost. He's like at another level right now. Like, he's playing like an actual top 5 quarterback, and it's not just the guys around him, or you can't say any of that. Like, the throws that this guy's making right now are incredible. So we'll get to the Iowa State dropping 52, but I just wanted to throw that out there because he's impressed me.
I think the theme here is I think the quarterback room of past and present is in very good hands with Iowa State. That was one of my takeaways is clearly Moberly is the backup, and he was pretty good yesterday. I mean, not in a He's not going to replace Rocco Good, but he adds another dynamic, and you got to feel really good about the future of that position with Iowa State.
It means nothing, but he actually had a higher PFF grade than Rocco did yesterday.
Well,
Again, that means nothing, but
he ran it really well. I think that surprised
good.
me. I mean, you just didn't know how that would translate. And Arkansas State clearly has some players. And
my
Moberly,
thing is the command he had out there, right?
Right.
Like it usually takes even the only guy that I saw that didn't really need that time was kind of Brett Meyer, but he had a redshirt year.
True.
But even like you look at Rocco and you look at really every player we've seen. Brock is the only one who came in as a freshman who wasn't a little bit passive as they started. And again, those didn't mean anything yesterday. You were killing a team. But
Yeah.
Moberly came in and looked and I give, my biggest takeaway from that game is I give the coaching staff credit.
100%.
Because they coached aggressively all game long. That's where I was dead wrong with my read on this game. I thought that Matt Campbell and Taylor Mauser would just put us to sleep in the second half. And one could even say they were more aggressive with the play calling when the twos were out there. This was clearly an opportunity that they saw to get the twos real reps in case they are needed later on in the year. That was my takeaway from the game, because you're kicking this team's ass. You could have just done the old anaconda, and they didn't. They kept going, and that was fun. That was much more fun than watch. Oh, okay, there's the tight end that we've heard so much about, but they're not going to do anything with them. No, they were throwing it across the middle to Overby. They were letting Moberly get out there and make decisions. Like, that was a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
Dylan Lee got a lot of snaps.
He got a tutty
yesterday. Yeah, I completely agree. It was great to see the depth within the program, and that's what really showcased to me. I mean, there was almost zero drop off at all between the ones and the twos, and that's what we heard about all fall camp. Is this is the deepest team Iowa State has had under Campbell, and that proved it in a lot of ways. Because even on defense, what was the stat? They played 83 players yesterday, C-Dub.
Yeah, I saw Walters tweeted that out.
That is insanity. That is absolutely crazy. And, there's some years where it's like, oh, boy, yeah, there's a big drop-off. Iowa State kept it going. Now, Arkansas State, I'm going to guess, talk about a long 2 weeks for them. They go to Ann Arbor. They got to go back home. They're beat up a little bit. It was hot yesterday. So I'm not going to take a lot of things away from the fourth quarter in that game. But athletically and just physically, Iowa State looked like they are very deep. And it was awesome to see the big fellas on the offensive line get some extended snaps as well. And Jalen Travis is a massive individual. And you can see just in some brief snaps how good that guy has the potential to be. Hasard had some really good snaps. I thought Trevor Bohr played quite a few as well. Morrow played a lot. Like they had a lot of guys play a lot of snaps, and that can only mean really good things once you get into Big 12 play, because as we know, you are not going to stay healthy for that 9-game Big 12 grind, and we're stepping right into it on the road in Houston, where it's going to be very hot again and humid. And so I actually think it was good, and that was one of my takeaways as well. Was it was so hot. It was so hot in the stands, C-Dub.
What are the chances? Yeah, what are the chances that you and me catch a flight?
No, don't tempt me.
I interrupted your point.
No, don't tempt me though, because I'm already.
What about Friday morning? Get a little direct. Let the wives figure out the kids. We're gonna head to Houston. Little Williams and Blum on the road.
You can get a direct, right? Hey, Aiden, can you look up on Google Flights? What is the direct? What's the direct flight cost from?
I'm not going unless it's a direct.
Yeah, we're not doing. No, we're not laying over. Yeah, we are. We're too big for that now.
We're 40. I'm not driving. I drove to the Houston Bowl.
If it's under 550, I would think about it. I'm not committing. We'll see what Aiden
we will just pay for that.
No, I won't do that to our donors.
Pizzas?
Nope, I'm not doing that to our donors. I would pay myself.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
No, okay. So real quick, and I want to talk about the heat, and we'll do all that.
Yes.
Apologize, that was rude of me to interrupt you, but I had to get that out there. I know Crystal will listen. My wife didn't listen to anything.
So that's the biggest.
I'm just saying we have to work. We have jobs. We are professional men. and we need to be in Houston. A little
There,
direct.
there are a lot of We Will contributors that will be at that game.
Just saying.
Yeah, come on now.
They got that. They got that big Texas Cyclone Club down there.
They do.
Our guy Barry. That's in
Barry's-
Dallas, but I'm sure they'll be over there.
Well, and then big Iowa State supporter, one really good guy, Steve Bergstrom, lives in Houston. I'm sure Steve's gonna have a home game, so he'll be down there.
There you go. We get to stay at Steve's.
We should stay. Steve, can we stay at your house, pal?
Steve's probably got like 10 bedrooms in that house. He can spare one to us. I know Steve listens to the show.
Yeah, I know. Oh, appreciate you, Steve.
Steve, give us a text and let us know if we're welcome, brother. Bring you a bottle of Cody Road.
That's right.
Real quick, before we get into all that, we are in the Wild Rose Casino Studios. We are always presented by our friends at Mechdyne. Mechdyne.com, MECHDYNE.com, enabling discovery. And a true story, I met somebody in the tailgate lots this week. They asked me to give them the Mechdyne website because they were going to potentially go and look at the job board there. Because they're like, man, you always talk about this Clover guy. And I was like, well, it's real. It's like, because I told them, I was like, you jerk fans, you're going to drive me out of this profession. I'm kidding. I love the fans. I did say that. I go, if I'm ever not doing this, I'm probably going to try and work for Clover, but I don't know if I can get through his hiring process is the problem.
I agree with
that. He knows too much about me. Mechdyne.com, phenomenal company, and they are always looking to hire Iowa Staters in all seriousness.
Aiden has an update on the flights.
What's going on?
Can you give us the price point on the flights, and are they direct or not? Aiden Wyatt, who's producing the program here today.
We do know it's a 6 o'clock kick. We did find that out today.
They are direct. There's 2 flights for $388 round trip.
Oh man,
we're going blue.
Going Sunday, coming back
Get the
on Sunday.
Neighborhood
leaving
group
Friday,
chat
coming back
fired up right now. We're going.
That's
at Bergstrom's.
See now, like we better do this.
Bergstrom's. We're staying there. We'll just Uber around Houston all weekend.
I think I do have some Marriott points, by the way, so we could probably find a room.
Kids can come stay with Uncle Aiden.
Hey, don't volunteer that, Aiden, because we will put
dogs
you to work.
All going to be lined up at Aiden, and Aiden will be on suicide watch by the end of the week.
We will update you all on Wednesday what the status of that is.
I'm just saying, like 3-0, top 20 Iowa State Cyclones, 12.5-point favorites over the Cougs.
And how about this?
I'm just saying,
Iowa
it's a
State
direct flight. There's going to be like 10 people in attendance, so we can really make an impact with our cheering because Houston doesn't support its team very well, even though they should. A great coach like Willie Fritz and a young program, they're going to get better. They're going to get better. Everybody calm down with this 34-0 against Cincinnati talk. Coach Fritz, that's it. That's a man's man right there. He'll have that team ready to play against the Cyclones on Saturday.
Well, there's no question that they'll be better than they were on Saturday. Their issue is they cannot do anything on offense right now.
Yeah, I didn't watch the Cincinnati game yet, so I just thought it was friend of the program Tyson Veit in that elite Cincinnati D.
Well, I'm going to guess the Iowa State coaches will absolutely watch that film because they had 220 yards and 8 first downs against Cincinnati. Ugh. And that's not going to do it. Not going to do it at all. It's a tricky spot, though. I mean, it's Houston clearly played Oklahoma down to the wire. And they've got guys. It's just they have not been able to move the ball.
I would question Oklahoma too. I mean,
yeah, for sure. And
really,
that's the second part of that. I do think that that Houston defensively has been solid. They are solid. I don't think they're good. But yeah, anytime you go on the road, that's a interesting spot. And you said it's 12.5 for Iowa State? Is the favorite?
12.5. Yep.
Interestingly,
so that went up. So whatever power rating the book is using, they docked Houston a point or two, and then Iowa State grew.
I just saw on
because that was going to be like 9.
Yeah, the Action Network. I thought this was super interesting because again, I trust Vegas more than I trust the voters, which I'm going to get into at some point here in the program.
Rightfully so.
Iowa State, from a power rating standpoint, via Vegas, is ranked 12th in the country. Ahead of LSU and Michigan, and just behind Notre Dame. So clearly
behind Notre Dame.
Yeah, and again, they're still living off They've been dominant when they've been dominant, and then they did win on the road at Texas A&M, which still looks pretty good. I would put Iowa State ahead of Notre Dame in the rankings, just because they haven't lost yet, but that's another story. But I guess the point is the metrics, the power ratings are starting to reflect what the eye test proved, in my opinion, on Saturday is Iowa State is getting better and clearly played 4 really good quarters of football on Saturday. And the ratings would reflect it's not often Iowa State's going to be a 10-plus point favorite on the road in conference play. I bet it hasn't happened more than 6 times in the last 25 years. Interestingly, on that regard, C-Dub, Iowa State trying to go to 4-0 for the first time since 2000. It's been 24 years since Iowa State started 4-0.
Yeah.
And so this has a rare opportunity for Iowa State. And if you look at the schedule, I mean, that's the exciting part is this run's not going to stop anytime soon.
West Virginia pulled out a late win over Kansas. The Fighting Leopolds are struggling down there in Lawrence right now. We'll give it. That's way down the road. It was funny. I was doing Cyclone Reaction with Colin Newell, who will be on the inside. This what do we call the inside zone? Inside zone. I almost called it the inside read. That doesn't make any sense because I think of Jirelli's doing the zone read. You know, he's sitting in for Jack this year because Jack's fighting his health battles, and it was the final segment yesterday, and I was like, Colin, you're gonna be a big favorite at Houston, and you're gonna be favored against Baylor. I'm like, this could be a top 10 team when they and he was physically
uncomfortable,
gyrating by me looking ahead that far because he's so indoctrinated into the Campbell way. And I was like, hey, you're a talker now, dude. You can do this. And he was so uncomfortable that I would dare just assume they were going to win football games. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That's the difference between those guys and us.
Well, and that's why I think Campbell was pretty pleased with yesterday is there was a lot of things working against Iowa State from a focus standpoint. Bye week, emotional win against Iowa, kind of a random game. It was hot. It wasn't a conference game. And Iowa State came out from the get-go. And outside of that one misstep by Rocco on that throw, which he shouldn't have thrown, I thought Iowa State was pretty sharp. And those young linebackers continue to get better. I thought the safeties were outstanding. Iowa State was in firm control. That is exactly what a top 15 type program should look like. And I thought 1 through 83, I mean, Iowa State has just a bunch of guys, and clearly showed up. And by the time the second half, it was like, all right, name the score at this point. And it was neat to see some of those backups we've heard about get in there and show what they have as well. So one of those rare stress-free games at Jack Trice that was just basically a party. A hot party, but it was a party.
Yeah. And I got notes on a lot of those backup guys that I wanted to talk about here. But to hammer home the big point is, there's bad Iowa State teams, there's okay ones, there's good ones, and then there's not very many great ones. The great ones are usually the ones that can do what this team did yesterday.
Yes.
Where they'll just blow somebody out.
Yes.
But it doesn't happen very often, right? Like over the history of this program, there's not many days like this, especially against a team that realistically will probably still be in a bowl game.
Correct.
I mean, this is a 6-6, 7-5 type Sunbelt team would be my guess. I don't think I'm being a homer there. And you just overwhelm them, right? And I think they could have done that to North Dakota, although North Dakota is turning out to be much better than we thought that they were.
Yep.
I think Iowa State could have scored a lot more against North Dakota in that first game, but whatever. But this was just a game where you could kind of tell. Well, what I loved is when Mauser, Campbell, whoever made the decision went for it on 4th down on that first drive because it was just like, yeah, we know we can get a yard.
Same.
Right.
How many times
that was like, whoa, that was an eye-opening deal to me. I didn't think that they would do that.
In the Campbell era, how many times have they punted that ball?
More often than not.
90%?
Yeah. And usually if you go for it, it's not just we're just going to run it right up the middle because we know we can get the yard. And that's what I just loved about that move. Then they tried to block a punt, and they did block a punt.
Yeah, Porter got another one. Yep.
Darian Porter. Did you see my tweet about this, by the way, on that topic? So the stat Iowa State gave is that he has blocked the punt in 4 consecutive seasons.
It's crazy.
So 1 punt in each of the. So he currently leads all active players with 4 block punts in his career, Darian Porter. There's no way. Nobody can find this for me. I asked Matt Schultz with Sports Information. I tweeted at Andringa and Beaner to get me some info. Nobody can find it. There's no way a player in NCAA history has blocked a punt in 4 consecutive seasons before, is there?
There's
That
no way
is
to
insane. Like,
there's
think
no
about
way
it.
to find that, but I can't imagine it's ever happened. Iowa State went years at a time without
It's hard to
blocking
block a punt.
Yeah, it's really
know?
hard to do. And for the
Now,
same
there was
guy.
a guy like Noah found it. Again, we were doing this on Reaction. This was half of Cyclone Reaction yesterday. Because I couldn't wrap my mind around this stat. It blew me away. There was some guy for Eastern Michigan or Central Michigan that blocked 3 in a game once.
Holy cow.
Yeah, but we couldn't find anything about the 4 seasons in a row. But whatever. Cool stat for him. Neat kid. You really have appreciated his work with We Will, and he's done
100%.
some CF stuff, which I really like him. So happy for that. But yeah, they just established dominance, and it was kind of like watching a couple of dogs wrestle in the backyard, and one of them gets submissive pretty quickly because they know that they're no contest for the other. And that was how I saw what Iowa State did to Arkansas State yesterday, because it was like, hey, good job. You stopped this on 3 in a row. Now we're going to shove it down your throat. The Ben Bramer catch, which wasn't a great throw, but that play call was an aggressive play call, and it was like, F you, we're going to go down and score. And I loved it. I just loved everything about the game plan, and that the coaches didn't do what I thought they would do. And I wouldn't have even been upset if they did. It was just so refreshing to watch them step on somebody's throat and, rip the jugular right out of there. I loved it.
And even late in the second quarter, Iowa State's up comfortably. Like the game wasn't really in doubt, but Iowa State just pushed on the gas and punched another one, and just for good measure. And that's kind of the explosiveness that Iowa State has. And, the other thing that I want to give a shout out to, special teams was flawless yesterday. Punt return game was good. Kick return game was good. You blocked a punt. You made a field goal. There was 0 mistakes in special teams. Iowa State right now, C-Dub, is the least penalized team in the Big 12, and I think the 9th least penalized nationally. We're not many penalties again.
Good stat. Good stat.
They're just really solid. And Ben Bramer, the fact that he's getting healthier, what a weapon. You pair him with Nolan Higgins, who are clearly demonstrating that they are dudes. And then Carson Hansen, heard first on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network that he was due.
Big Carson Hansen podcast
That's
here.
Right. And we started to get some heat. It's like, you guys are wrong. Hey, Carson Hansen had a day.
He's a good player.
Okay, he's a really good player. And it's nothing against Abu. I mean, they have 4 good options there at running back, and I thought Jalen Jackson had another great game.
What do you think is going on at running back? Here's my theory, but I don't know, and I don't think that Campbell would give us a real answer if we asked him. My read is that Abu's going to get 40% of the carries, 40 to 50. And it's almost like the read I get is that Jalen Jackson's too good to keep off the field.
Clearly.
There's a little bit of Monte Morris freshman year going on with this guy, where every time he touches it, it's like, well. But I also don't think Jalen Jackson could be a feature back. And I don't necessarily know if Hansen's ready to be a feature back, because maybe he's getting to that point. I don't know. But Abu's clearly that guy. I'm not playing him out of that. He's clearly number 1 in my mind. But if you watch running back across the sport of football, other than in Iowa City, where that kid is, he was unbelievable.
Yep, he's been great.
And he was unbelievable against Iowa State, and a really good defensive game plan by John Haycock. But my point is, that's where my mind's going with this, where it's going to be like a 40, 30, and 30 thing, or a 40, I don't know. Maybe it's a 40, 40, 20, a 50, 30, 20. Where do you think they're going with running back?
Yeah, that's what, yesterday was great, because they're all different. I think still the knock on Abu, and he's way better. He's more physical already. I think he did get dinged up a little bit in one of the earlier games. So, getting him some rest anymore, as you know, C-Dub, in college football, you don't want a guy having it 30 times a game.
No.
You break it up, and then each of them provides something a little bit different. Abu's your home run hitter. Jalen's, man, what really impressed me with him is he can get you 4 or 5 really tough yards inside without, even if there's not a whole lot there because he's a little guy, he can kind of maneuver his way in there. And then Hanson, we saw it. I mean, physical, big, downhill. And when they did that, triple I formation a couple times with him, and that was really difficult to stop. So they're just different enough that you can use them all. And it's not a knock against Abu. He's still great. It's just the more depth you have at that position can only help once you get into late October, November, when everybody else is banged up.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's not a problem. It's a great situation.
Well, and then
to be in.
on
I
that
was just
same
shocked when I looked at the stats and like the other guys had more carries than Abu yesterday.
Well, then help me out. Maybe Fagan could put up the Pro Football Focus snap count, the usage of the tight ends. Obviously, Bramer's a dude, but Burkle and Moore were great yesterday.
Moore, did you see his block on the Carson Hansen run?
Yes,
in
he
the
is
first quarter. Oh.
I mean, he's a guy that it's a neat story because he was in a rough spot last year. He was dealing with injuries that a lot of people might have given up, but he kept at it. And neat kid, local kid. Obviously part of the Purchase More Ham and Bacon campaign, so I've got to know him a little bit. But happy for him that he's really grinded it out, and he's been a featured
and he got
guy.
a touchdown yesterday.
Yeah,
too.
he had a touchdown. Cool. I mean, again, Klotz is solid as always. Bramer was great. Even like a Bjorn came in and looked really good. So that tight end position, they mentioned on the broadcast. I watched it back this morning, and they're like, you get on the field, and it's, for me, everybody's big, but they're like, these are massive human beings that they can just roll out there at tight end. And that is still, in my opinion,
like a freak out there.
Yeah, they're huge, but they can, in Big 12 is a physical conference, but that's still Iowa State's MO. When you get into the grind of cold weather, is being able to get those multiple tight ends, multiple running backs, and just keep churning out at you. Now you throw in C-Dub, what I think is 8 or 9 folks on the offensive line that you can roll in there too. And as the season gets going and more teams wear down, Iowa State's depth will pay off in October and November. You could not say the same thing about that Brock Purdy Priest Hall team. That team got injured. It got worn down. And that's why it really fell off. If you look at the schedule, defense in particular was banged up and they fell off. I don't have that concern with this team. Even the linebackers have drastically gotten better. And we'll see. Competition will ratchet up once you get in the Big 12. But I think Iowa State's in a really good shape as these injuries mount and people get banged up. They got multiple more bodies in there to do it.
I want to thank a couple sponsors here, and then I want to talk about the defense, and then we're going to do some game day stuff as like the atmosphere and all that. People have been tweeting at us about it. We'll give you some takes. Of course, our buddy Colin Newell, talked about him. He's doing a great job doing post-game with me this year. I'd love getting his analysis, and you can reach out to him today with Farm Bureau Financial Services. Bloom and I both exclusively use him with all of our insurance needs. Colin's the man. He's a really bright. I can't believe his age every time I talk to him. He's just so smart and mature, and just he doesn't have an ounce of idiot in him, and I appreciate that. Colin Newell, my man, Farm Bureau Financial Services.
The money he is saving us could get us direct flights to Houston.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, ladies, it's because we switched to Colin Newell.
We're financially responsible individuals by going with Newell, which allows us.
And we're going to shack up with Mr. Bergstrom. So it's like we're saving money there.
That's right.
Also, my main man, Jeff Kelderman over at Kelderman Manufacturing, sat around with him around the TV on Friday night and watched. He came over. I brought Kelderman over.
I sat with him during the game.
The We Will deal. Yeah,
I sat with Kelderman during the game.
Oh, yeah, you did. I forgot you were going to do that.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
It was I mean, Kelderman is elite sports mind as well, not to mention a really good guy. So we actually had, and this is where I want to get into, we had an older woman. The heat got the best of her, like probably 85-year-old plus lady.
Man,
and between Kelderman and my wife, they got this lady taken care of and got her some water, and we had a nurse near us, and man, it was hot. So anyway, it was an experience with Kelderman, but what a good dude.
It always is.
Yeah.
Check out his YouTube page if you like big trucks and motorcycles and badass cars. I look at it all the time. We get about once a week, we get a text from Kelderman who's updating his YouTube page. Kelderman Manufacturing, Kelderman.com. If you go through the RV lot, you'll see a giant ass RV with a huge Circle K on it. That's Jeff. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank our buddy Chappie, Andrew Chaplin, real estate mogul out there in Ames. Hung out with him a little bit on Friday at the We Will women's basketball golf outing, which was fantastic. A phenomenal event where we raised a lot of money for the women's basketball program. And Chappie's a big supporter of that program. He's been a season ticket holder for a long time. And he also gave me the greatest gift I've ever received in my life. And he gave Bloom one too. The Brooke Burke poster from Welch Avenue Station. Not the real one, but a replica. It is now framed. It will be going up in the Cyclone Fanatic studio or here in the home office. There's a picture of it right now for those of you who are watching on YouTube. That is the Brooke Burke, the wonderful, beautiful, lovely Brooke Burke. Where are you going to put yours, Bloom? Right up in your kitchen?
No, I've got to get it mounted here later this evening. It's going in the bathroom where it belongs, just like Welch Ave.
Right above the pisser.
And so when the kids
How
look
many
at it,
pisses have you taken at that Welch Ave urinal?
well, now I can reminisce every time I'm in my basement.
Why do we watch games at my house? I'm going to your house now. I don't have a basement downstairs. Otherwise, that's where it would be.
Well, you're welcome anytime, but now, I mean, my 6 and 4 are going to learn what a
Unbelievable.
Budweiser is.
Yeah, well, and they're going to learn something else about that. I'll tell you that. Okay, defense. I don't have a lot of notes because they were so dominant. We didn't really learn anything about them. I will say that the young linebackers, that was my thing going into the game because I thought that Arkansas State had the athletes kind of test them a little bit more so than Iowa did. And I don't say that to be disrespectful to Iowa. It's just different playing a spread you out offense compared to what Iowa does, where it's all so tight and in a box. These guys were going to have to, read some athletes on the second layer, and they did a really good job. I don't know what to take of it other than I think the Brazina-Ebel combo, it's got a lot of not inclined to me. I know that's a big statement, but the fact that they just moved Brazina over the way that they did when Bacon goes down, and he's been honestly flawless through 2 games, and they will take lumps. I truly believe that. Like when you watch Baylor, I don't know what they are. We'll talk about them in the Whipple's Hybrids Big 12 segment coming up. They're going to get tested more than they have. There's going to be a few rough spots. There always are with freshmen, but damn, these 2 guys are really freaking good. 47 and 9 are going to be a staple for Iowa State's defense for a long time. God willing, the collective keeps moving. No pressure.
Thanks.
Tough day for the collective yesterday, showing off all that talent in the 2 deep.
WeWillCollective.com. Yeah, please.
That was my takeaway, though, is just how good they looked again. And the secondaries, that's the best secondary Iowa State's ever had. I'm sorry, TJ Tampa, but like when those safeties are another year older, they're freaking really good. They're low, and the other corners are playing really well. Like Porter and Williams, they're not TJ Tampa, but Purchase has stepped up his game. Those 2 guys are very serviceable. You have 3 number 1 corners. You have like 4 number 1 safeties, and they're really, really good. I'm very impressed with the defense.
Well, same. And then, what those big linebackers do, and that was maybe the knock on during the Campbell eras, they haven't had those really big physical guys. But to me, it appears that those 2 in particular, Ebel and Brazina, now free up the safeties to really make some plays because they can be more aggressive because they know that those bigger linebackers are going to stop what's in front of them. Even in years past, you'd have your safeties really creeping down in there, to like an Anthony Johnson that really needed to help in the run game. Well, I think Ebel and Brazina can do a lot in stopping the run game, which allows Verdon, Cooper, Freeler to really key on, the pass game a little bit more. And in my opinion, that's going to lead to what we saw yesterday, which is more turnovers because those safeties are elite. They're all high end IQ guys. And so when they know what's coming, they can be in the right spot. And you saw it, Cooper, Verdon, great ball skill guys. Like anything, if it's near them, they're going to make a play.
Malik had one of the highest grade outs I've ever seen.
And
he is Iowa State player.
He is so long that he just, even if he did get the 1 pick, but he batted down and tipped at like 3 other passes. Like he is that hybrid type safety that is really, really valuable because he can defend a tight end, a wide receiver. He can come up and stop the run. And I think Malik, it's through 3 games, but C-Dub, I would say he might be has been the biggest standout on the defense for me through 3 games. And if you would, before the year, you probably would have had him as your third or fourth best defensive back. We always knew he was good, but he's healthy and he's really starting to make some plays. I've been really impressed by Malik.
I was glad to see Coop get a turnover.
Shame.
It's funny, like he's so good that he's almost like disappeared for me this year.
Yes. Yep.
So far, it's a little tame and lipsy going on with him, where it's just you just expect him to be great all the time when he's on the field, and you kind of forget about him. But yeah, he had the play, and then yeah, I love 47 and 9. Like they are like Bash Brother. I don't know what we're gonna call them. We probably need to do another Super Smash Brothers shirt like we did with Mike Rose, but shout out to my other tag team partner, Miles Mendezin.
Yes.
Gets on the field and had an elite couple series in there on the D line.
He played
So
really well.
my boys played really, really well yesterday.
Well, and Joey Peterson got some pressure, which is good to see. You know, he
had a great
impacted the
day.
game.
Great
I
day.
thought Trevon Howard came in, gave him some really good snaps. Another safety that they're super high on. Like he'll be ready to go once some of these older guys leave the program. And then the D line didn't quote unquote do a whole lot, meaning Onyedem and Orange, but they eat up everything. It just makes the playmakers be able to make plays when Orange and T.O. and Singleton are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I can't really nitpick at the defense at all yesterday. And I think that's a pretty good Arkansas State offense. But now you look at the numbers, Iowa State's going to be top 10, top 15 nationally in most defensive categories here early on.
We'll move on to this game day stuff. Thanks to our buddies over at Westo Brewing and Ames Lager. Matt dropped off. I didn't get to see him, but Matt dropped off some Ames Lager merch for me. A badass Ames Lager rope hat that I was going to wear today, and I forgot to wear it on the show. Drank way too many of those on Friday night. Too many of those on Friday night.
We had a good time after the game with some friends around, and seemed like an endless supply of Ames Lager, and we put a few down. But the good news is, C-Dub, I've got some of their other stuff for you that was dropped off. So I got some Cocoa Stout for you.
Beautiful.
And I got one of their IPAs for you. So again, they make more than just Ames Lager.
Getting to be that time of year where we're getting a little darker.
Yes.
Which I like. That's my beer drinking preference. So let's get after it. Yeah. Shout out to them. As I do. You guys have done a good job with that, because everywhere I walk pregame is people are drinking it. So they're really, Iowa State fans are really locked in and looking for this stuff and buying it up whenever they can find it.
Yep.
Let's
Thank
get
you.
to
Thank you, everybody.
This game day conversation. Then we will do our Wiffles Hybrids Big 12 segment. First of all, I thought the crowd was great. The lots were phenomenal. Pregame, walk into the game. I usually go in about 2 hours before kick. Get a lot of tweets about the Souk Up End Zone Club and people upset because it's not full. I have a lot of opinions on this, and I probably will irritate a lot of fans with my thoughts on it. I don't have strong opinions, but I guess, and I don't have a lot of room to talk because I was sitting in an air-conditioned press box. Okay?
Yep.
So, I have no room to talk. I have heard from many people who were at the game, including my wife and my daughter Elise, by the way, stayed until the very last minute because Elise had to sing Sweet Caroline.
That's awesome.
God's honest truth. But it
She's
was
tougher
a
than me.
hot day.
It was hot.
Newell came up and he's like an elite D1 athlete, right? He was like, that's the hottest game I've ever sat at in my life, is what he said. And I view it as these people pay a premium for their seats, and they're funding a lot of the athletic department. And if it's 100 degrees in the stadium and they want to sit inside and you're up by 50, I don't really care. It does not impact me whatsoever. I get it. I think the bigger problem that people have is not yesterday, but it's a third quarter. Kansas State's in town. It's a really close game, and the stadium's half empty at kickoff of the third quarter. That's what bothers me. That bothers me. But that's not a south end zone thing. That's the case across the entire stadium, which is why if I were the athletic director, I wouldn't let people go out at halftime. I would just sell beer across the entire stadium. But again, that's not my call. That's what I would do. If you want to be a big boy program now, you can't go out and tailgate at halftime like we did in the 90s when the team sucked. Okay? Just my opinion. That's going to catch a lot of flack, but you know what? People bitched when we got rid of the hillsides. Oh, we used to roll down there when we were kids. I know. I did a lot of things when I was a kid, but just my opinion.
Yeah.
These people, it's a little bit like when you go to an NFL game compared to a college game, there's a very corporate feel to it. That's what it is there. It's high end. It's
Higher end, yeah. I mean,
yeah, but compared to the rest of the stadium, like they pay a premium for it. And if it's 100 out and they want to be in the air conditioning, it doesn't bother me. It bothers me in November at a third quarter when they're all in there drinking and not out there being loud for the opposing team. That makes an impact on me. Yesterday, I did not mind whatsoever.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite here because I have sat in the south end zone several times since I left the radio booth, and there are times when it's been super hot or super cold that I will spend 10 minutes up there and grab a beverage and grab a chicken finger and watch it on the monitors. Like you're providing a service, people are paying for the service, and that service is the ability to get drinks and the ability to have air conditioning and heat. Like those seats, and you know this, anybody who sat there knows this, they're not the best seats to watch a football game. They really
No,
aren't.
it's actually pretty bad.
It's because you cannot see on the other end, and you're really just watching the video board and anything on the other. You have no depth perception for first downs. Like you don't know what is 5 yards to 8 yards. So I give everybody credit for monetizing those seats in a good way. And I think by and large, the South End Zone has been an incredible addition and made Iowa State football so much better in that the look and feel. And yes, when you're up 40 in the third quarter and it's 95 degrees in that stadium, I don't fault people at all. In fact, I'm not going to be a hypocrite here. I left in the fourth quarter because I was hot. My kids were hot. The game was not in doubt. And just candidly, it's the selfishness of convenience for me. So I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and criticize anybody else for leaving in those games. I agree. Third quarter thing in a conference game when you're, maybe a top 15 team playing another top 25 team. Yeah, please don't leave the stadium and knock it out until 5 minutes left in the third quarter. I have a problem with that. And again, as somebody
that's not even just an end zone club. Like that is all over the stadium.
That is not. And
that's an Iowa State thing. That has been the case for 25 years.
Well, and again, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. When I had a parking pass 2 years ago in 85E, which is right outside the stadium, I went out at halftime.
Absolutely. You
Every
can.
game.
Why wouldn't you go out and then they're shotgunning beers out there so they keep their buzz going?
And then I would be,
we've
honestly,
all done it.
I was late a couple of games getting back in to my seat. So I am, it's different. People will make their own individual choices, and I admire those people who sit in their seats the entire game.
Absolutely.
Like that, like you guys are stronger than me. You're hardier than me.
Like Elise.
But I don't question somebody's fandom if it's 95 degrees and it's hot. Showing up in the first place is big to me because at the end of the day, yes, the atmosphere matters. You need to protect your home field, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is buying a ticket to begin with. Like, and if you're not buying a ticket and you're criticizing people, it's just like, well, at least they bought the ticket on that front end. So I have a hard time telling anybody else how to be a good fan. The same thing, C-Dub, and it frustrates me in the similar light is when the students aren't showing up, for basketball games.
Mm-hmm.
Again, times have changed. Iowa State, by and large, has much better attendance as a whole than about anybody in the conference. And when it comes to support, and that is Iowa State's separator. So that's where I would say it's you don't want to lose that, but it's a lot easier anymore with all the technology to sit at your home on your big screen, all those things. At least showing up to begin with is more of the battle to me.
And when we were students, like, you couldn't even watch half the basketball games unless you went.
Correct.
Like, it was different, and I don't know. This is just as more of in my opinion, this is a societal conversation. Like,
For
when
sure.
your dad was there in the when did your dad like,
Yeah.
they didn't have the internet, they didn't have Nintendo. Like,
Well, and
"Well,
then
we're gonna go to the game."
the other
What
part
the
is,
hell
and I
else are
don't
we gonna do? You
and the
gonna
games
read?
were they were 2 hours and 30 minutes back then too. Like, now all of these timeouts, like, it was hot. Like, I saw again, I mentioned the older woman that passed out. Like, it got to the point where, like, we were like, she was not responsive, just because of the heat. I don't know what I hope she's doing well. But I heard stories from a lot of people that were there. They had people passing out in their sections as well. Like, there comes a point where your health needs to be a priority over being a great fan. And if people are hot, and there were so many people in the concourse because it was hot, I am not faulting them at all. I appreciate them for showing up in the first place.
Speaking of being a great fan, there were so many of them at your outing on Friday. The women's basketball outing we had out at Ames Golf and Country. I had so much fun for the couple of hours that I got to spend out at that. I do think that I convinced our family to go in and buy a group of 4 season tickets after that. It was just and I just love that team. Said it at the event. You asked me to speak, which I was very, very honored to do. I think Emily Ryan's my favorite Cyclone athlete of all time.
Yeah,
Honestly.
there's
I mean, she is just a joy to be around. She is the epitome of like what the fan base is. Blue collar, overcomes adversity, sticks it out when everybody else leaves. Floor general. I can't wait to watch that team. I saw that the bracketology has them at like a 2 seed right now going into this. Obviously, it means nothing because they haven't played a game. But my point is that's where the expectations will be. And you gave a stat, or Billy gave a stat when he spoke, Coach Finley, that they are still by number the youngest team in the Big 12. And they
crazy,
will
isn't it?
be picked by some to win the league.
Mhm.
And they're the youngest team. So like this is freaking awesome.
Yeah, and
Love that team.
this is not slowing down, but that's why I appreciate. To my knowledge, it's the only women's basketball collective sponsored golf tournament in the country, and we sold that out in 3 weeks, completely full.
Awesome.
Ended up raising over $80,000 for the women's basketball fund through NIL, and there's not many other places that will do that. And I know the players on the team certainly appreciate it. We had a great day, but it's the fans that supported it, and I think this is shaping up, and this is kind of why I feel great about everything now is we are in the midst of what could be one of the better years in Iowa State history. The way it's
No doubt.
trending.
Saw Kevin Dresser out there, reminded me of how good wrestling's going to
Yep.
be
And then men's
this
basketball
year.
got honored on
Oh
the
yeah,
field.
the top 5 Cyclone men's basketball
Yeah,
team.
the Big 12 champions, and that schedule's coming out this week, by the way. So be on the lookout for that. But I think we're in the good times, everybody. But from my end, it's how do you keep the good times rolling, and that is by continuing to show up, buy tickets, just be there. If it's hot, I'm not going to fault anybody for that, but just keep showing up. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised at how good that crowd was at the start of the game, considering all the
Especially
circumstances.
well, there was rain in the forecast all
Exactly.
week,
Yep.
and it didn't. We got a little rain overnight, but it really I mean, it started sprinkling in the lots at like 8 o'clock, but it was not a washout whatsoever.
Yeah. And that's where, obviously showing up, buying season tickets, priority number one. But then CW, like we had a meeting this week on the collective side, and our coaches need basically double the budget for next year.
Of course they
So,
do.
and that's just the nature of it. Like everybody knows, if you watch the football team, they have so much talent, which is great. But everybody else sees that too. And we're looking straight on at December 4th. Iowa State could be potentially preparing for a playoff game, and yet the portal will open. I mean, it's crazy timing. Like it makes no logic at all. However, we
It's
are very,
college sports. Nothing makes sense.
it doesn't make sense, but we are right in the prime of mode, honestly, in a good way, because that means you have good players, but it's also scary. I talked to a bunch of people in the lots, and I had great conversations. Like, what do we need? I'm like, well, we need a lot right now. Just be quite candid. We're going to have top 10 basketball teams. This football team will be ranked, I think, could be in the top 10 here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. That is rare in this era to have that much, and to keep all those teams together. It's going to be a struggle, but that's where you all can chip in. And I'm telling you, every little bit helps. So thank you. I guess long story short, without your support, this would not have been possible. But our coaches are basically like, yeah, we think we're going to need double to be in the middle of the pack in the Big 12.
They are WeWillCollective.com. Give your shout out.
Yes.
Doing a great job, man. It's a thankless job, but you're doing a good job. On that note, real quick, I wanted to thank Batch, your
Yes.
tailgating buddy,
What a
and a
dude.
long time listener of the show. He knows that I'm collecting the themed beers of all the different schools and collectives and stuff, and he brought me a little cooler of it was like South Dakota State, South Dakota. I didn't know Northern Iowa had one.
Mhm.
He did put a couple of swarms in there. I don't know what he wants me to do with that. I got to draw a line somewhere. I don't drink
Well,
that piss.
well, it's nice that they actually sold 2 of them. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought it was it was one of a very thoughtful gift. Meant the world to me. I was beaming when he gave me that. So
No, it's so real quick
thanks,
on
man.
that, like the
Appreciate
RV,
that.
his kids and my kids are now like buddies. Like that's
That's
the
cool.
really neat part of the RV village, and it's truly one of the good parts about the internet is friends on the internet that have now become like legit friends in real life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got a bunch of those. All right. Let's do the Wiffles hybrids Big 12 segment, and we are not lacking Big 12 football storylines after last night. Holy crap! We have to start with the Hail Mary
Oh my
in the
god.
Colorado game. And boy, did Fox play up Cordell Stewart to Michael Westbrook. Yeah.
Yep.
Before that, I mean, they played it like 6 times before this all goes down. Shadir Sanders works some magic in the Buffs. And fireable offense by Baylor's defensive coaching staff, the way they were defending this Hail Mary. But it goes into overtime, and Coach Prime wins his first Big 12 game, 38-31. But Baylor should have won the game. Like this wasn't even close. They should have won the game, and that's got to be deflating for Aranda's group, I would think. I just don't know how much gas they have left in the tank there. But one of the great plays in college football all year. This will be top 3 for sure. This Hail Mary into the end zone.
Yeah, you know what it reminded me of a little bit from my first thought was exactly that. It was less about Colorado because it doesn't really change my opinion on them other than they are kind of who I thought they were. It's for Baylor. It's like that was a Paul Rhodes against K-State type collapse.
Good point.
And that was unrecoverable for Paul. He literally got fired the next day. Now, this is different. You're in September. But I really wonder what happens to Baylor now because Aranda was already kind of on his last legs with the administration. He's changed the staff over. They've tried quarterbacks. They've printed shirts that say "We pay players."
So desperate.
And you're getting to that point where you have many other cards to play here, and that's one of those losses that can linger for a while. And really curious how they respond going forward, and what the Big 12 is going to be really even. And man, that's one that they're going to look at and go, "Oh, how do we let that one get away?" That could be the difference of him keeping his job at the end of the year. I really believe that.
Yeah, and you know how this game works. If he's going to get fired, it could be in a couple weeks because these administrations are now pushing guys out early so they can get a head start. Baylor, not a place lacking for money. That would be a storyline. I mean, who knows what the situation is? Who do they real quick? Because this does have Iowa State implications.
Yeah.
They are home against BYU next week, and then they go to Iowa State. If they lose to BYU, which we'll get to the point spread here in a minute when we play guess the point spreads. I mean, watch out. Iowa State could put a stake in his heart. Reality, honestly, if they're 2-4 or whatever, that was a bad loss though because it was so preventable. It's one of those games where you outplayed the team, you outcoached the team, you had them beat, and then you just completely unprepared in a moment that should never have happened.
And if I'm a player there, I'm not faulting myself. I'm faulting my coaching staff for not having us ready to defend that play. I mean, it's just
everybody in the world knew what was coming.
Right. And credit Sanders. That was great. Great play.
Shadir's one of like 3 quarterbacks in the country that can make that play.
Yeah, I mean, the fact to roll it out left, throw it with that much juice. I mean, that was a huge throw. But man, I didn't think about Colorado at all. I was like, oh, this is bad for Baylor.
Worst loss of the weekend other than Baylor was
Oh.
Oklahoma State losing without Cam Rising. Utah goes in and beats them.
Or K-State getting burritoed.
Oh, we can talk about that too.
Oh, my
But at least
God.
that was on the road.
Yes.
Oklahoma State, you tell me Cam Rising's out, I would have picked Oklahoma State by double digits. They lose, and they get sucked into Utah's game.
Mhm.
Brilliant coaching by Kyle Whittingham. I think the two longest tenured coaches in college football, along with Kirk Ferentz, 22-19, where Utah realistically has established itself as the favorite to win the Big 12 now.
Yeah, you're right. They completely dominated, and then, Bowman was so bad early, and it took the juice out of that stadium, and Utah just kind of not super impressive offensively, but just kind of grounded it out. I mean, they basically played Iowa football there in the second half. Like, we're just gonna wash the clock out, and their quarterback wasn't good, but he did well enough against a really disappointing effort by Oklahoma State in the first half, particularly from Bowman, who was, I guess there's a reason why he's still in college football at the age of 24.
Yeah, there's usually something to that. Really disappointed in Kansas State too. This was one of my Iowa Everywhere two guys locks of the week. They were
grief.
horrible.
They're horrible at every level.
Everything was bad. 38-9 for those who didn't stay up for the game. I went to bed after the third quarter. I'm like, this thing's over. And they'll keep getting better. Yeah, I can't get out of my head. One of my good sources and people in the business told me in like July, I don't know why everybody thinks Kansas State's going to be so good. And I kind of shrugged it off because it was just one person's opinion. And I'm wondering how accurate that is. But again, I'm not going to overreact to this loss. It was a Midwest team going west. It doesn't always turn out well. Avery Johnson doesn't suck. He's going to keep getting better.
Yeah, he's a nice player.
Don't overreact to one game. But, I mean, really disheartening to get blown out. They were never in the game.
Well, the crazy thing is, if you look at those stats that Aiden had pulled up on the YouTube screen, K-State out-yarded them out.
They were leading after the first quarter.
Yeah, and it's just like they just melted down on the turnover. And that was a turnover game. Three turnovers for K-State. I think one of them ended up in a touchdown. You can't play that way on the road and get away with it. And I mean, BYU, good for them. Now ranked, they are, what a shock in a good way for them. Makes things super interesting. But again, they didn't dominate at all from just style of play, but turnovers, momentum, and just sucking the will out of the game. K-State ran the ball fine like I thought they would, but it's a lot easier to run the ball when you're down 30.
The game that we really had an eye on because it was going to really make somebody's season go down the tubes was West Virginia, Kansas, where Kansas really looked strong, and then there was this long weather delay. West Virginia dominates the fourth quarter, sends Lance Leipold's team back. Again, to me, this is less about this game and more about just the Illinois and UNLV loss compounding, and now Kansas is staring at 1-3. And you're looking at Jalen Daniels now, and you're like, he's not like the problem, but you're like, this is once a Heisman contender, and now you're wondering about that situation. And credit to you, you pointed out that the other guy was kind of the glue to that team last year after Daniels goes down, and was that the case?
Yeah, that's a game they should have won. And I don't think
absolutely.
West Virginia for 3 quarters was very, very average. Green played well in the fourth quarter and made a lot of plays. I still think that's a really hard game for Iowa State and Morgantown. Anytime you go to Morgantown, it's a really good atmosphere. I'm a big fan of that place. But, I mean, this is the fear, C-Dub. And again, Leipold's done everything right there as far as rebuilding a historically awful program. Like, what he's done is incredible. However, now your fans, I'm going to start. Does the leash get a little shorter with the fan base in that you've been flirting with everybody else for a while? You've used it for leverage. They have poured a bunch of money into him, into NIL, into the stadium, and now you're 1-3. You've had a couple bad losses in there. You lost your offensive coordinator who could have been the glue the whole time, and now you've got the coach's wife on social media complaining that why don't the Kansas fans support like Nebraska does for its home games? Like there are starting to be some things that are bubbling up that are ignored when you're winning, but now that you're not, do the fans start to say, "Hey, Lance, like what are we doing here?" So I think it's going to be super interesting. Again, another program that these next couple of weeks are critical. I still think they rebound. I really like their skill guys on offense. I think they're going to be okay. But that makes that game in Arrowhead with Iowa State super interesting. There is no question in my mind Iowa State will have more fans than Kansas will at that game.
Completely
No
agree.
question.
Their upcoming schedule, man, you'd like to think that they would beat TCU at home.
God, TCU with a complete.
Yeah, and then they have to go to Arizona State after that, which is going to be tricky. We're going to learn a lot about all these West Coast trips, and none of these teams have done it. And but then those teams have to go east too. It's a weird. We're learning all this on the fly. You mentioned TCU; they got rocked,
Embarrassing.
66-42 lose to their rival SMU,
and then coach gets ejected. First Power 5, Power 4 coach to get ejected in a game in 8 years.
I didn't even know that you could get ejected.
Like in football, it takes like the magic words.
I mean, you think of the stuff Paul used to do.
Yeah. Even then, even Paul didn't get ejected.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying.
So, you wonder, like TCU, a proud fan base. They did win they didn't win. They got to the national championship 2 years ago, but that's unacceptable to your crosstown rival and complete no-show. That's not good. That is a terrible situation.
What a weird tenure.
Bizarre.
For Dykes.
So bizarre.
And
if he used to coach there, as everybody knows, he was the SMU coach before he went across town. So
I really thought like last year was natural. You regress after the big year where they go to the playoff. But then it was like, man, if there is like some mean somewhere, they should get better this year. But I don't really see it. I don't have faith that they will at this point. And I don't know. The Dykes, we don't know contract stuff because it's a private school. But just weird.
And I'm gonna guess when they went to the national championship, he leveraged the heck out of it and got a big time buyout. Like they're gonna have a hard. So. They won't let him go. But it's another one of those situations where, gosh, the thing can turn on you fast, and you start piling up losses with your Kansas and Dyke. I mean, those were two of the hottest names in college football coaching in the past couple. Same with Aranda, and now look at them all. They're all like maybe not. I'm not saying Leipold's in limbo, not at all. But it's just interesting how quickly it can turn.
I do wonder. I'm just going off of conversations with Kansas writers. That Daniel situation last year was really pretty toxic, from what I understand. And then you bring him back, and I don't know. Are they playing for each other? Is there chemistry problems there because of it? I don't know. I would speculate a little bit though.
Well, and then this kind of went under the radar, but their new offensive coordinator was the one that Baylor fired, that Grimes guy. So, man, I'm telling you, coaching.
And their guy went off and took the money.
Yep. Coaching comes down to culture and hiring the right coaches. And I'm afraid that might be a miss.
The other Big 12 notes, Texas Tech wins its Big 12 opener against Arizona State. That was a good football game, 30-22. And then Cincinnati housed Houston. The Cougs dropped to 1-3, 34-0. That was a no contest from the beginning. It was 24-0 at halftime. So there you go. Your Whipple's Hybrids Big 12.
Well, and just wrap it up. Let's look at your updated odds to win the Big 12.
Plant your independence. Plant Whiffles. What are our odds, Bloom?
All right. The overwhelming favorite now is Utah.
Yeah.
At plus 175.
That's not good value, but go ahead.
Second to win the Big 12 are our friends from Central Florida, UCF at 5-1.
So Iowa State's got to be third.
Iowa State is third at 7-1. K-State has
dropped.
Does
UCF have like an easy schedule that we haven't picked up on? Or
I think it must be, and they haven't aired yet. That TCU win doesn't maybe look as good as it did a week ago. But point is, that game with Iowa State names on, what is that, the 19th of October? Started to become a very important game in the Big 12 race.
I'm going to pull up Central Florida's schedule real quick.
And then Oklahoma State.
To call them UCF, by the way.
Oklahoma State is 8.5-1. They are fifth. Nobody else is better than 20-1. So those five that Vegas is saying have separated themselves.
Their schedule is pretty easy.
What do we got?
They get Colorado next week at home.
Yep. Dub.
They have to go to Florida. That doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
Cincinnati at home.
Dub.
At Iowa State.
Underdog.
BYU at home.
Dub.
Arizona at home.
That looks easier.
That's a win. I'll call that a dub. At Arizona State.
Tricky, but not
they'll be
terrible.
at West Virginia, which looks easier than it did, but still a tough stretch. And then they get Utah at home.
There you go. Yep. Makes sense to me. That is really set up well for them. 100.
A couple of our longtime sponsors, and then we'll get to guess the point spreads. MoveWhatMatters.com with the Iowa State University Foundation. Be a more well-rounded Cyclone. Go and give your you can do all sorts of great donations as gifts. You can give to any aspect of the university that you find to be important. I like to give every year to the Greenlee School of Journalism. I give to the veterinary medicine. I give to the Iowa State University Marching Band. And, of course, our friends at the Ivy College of Business. Shout out to our buddy Dean Spalding. I need to do a new Bitcoin podcast with Coach Spalding. He's basically my coach.
Record enrollment in the Ivy College of Business this year.
Could be.
Which is awesome. By the way, most academic programs across the country are losing students. Ivy has grown like 25% in the last 5 years, which is insanity. It means that it's a great education. People are starting to notice. And I like to think, C-Dub, it's all of the advertising on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.
I think so, too. I tell every journalism student I talk to, you should get a business degree.
That, too.
Everybody should get a business degree and going forward. All right, let's do it. Let's guess the point spreads. Let's go to our friends at WebWise and trywebwise.com. They are a longtime sponsor of this segment here on Cyclone Fanatic. They make very affordable. I don't call them cheap. I call them affordable WordPress websites for you and your business when you don't need to go off and spend $15,000. I promise you, I'm a pro in this. This is what I do. You don't need to go off and spend all this like exorbitant amounts of money on a website for your business when you don't need it. Sometimes you don't need what they're trying to sell you. And my friends at WebWise do a phenomenal job of giving us a really good value. And most importantly, fantastic Iowa State fans over at WebWise. So he is Brent Blum, and he is going to attempt to guess the point spreads. Can we get a little yakety sax going, please, Aiden? Thank you so much. .com. Week 5 of the college football season. So we're already a month into this thing. This thing has flown by, and it's time to get after it. Oklahoma State is at Kansas State.
Oof. This game lost some luster. K-State, 5.
5.5. BYU is at Baylor.
Wow. I'm not buying BYU yet. No, I'm impressed, but I'm not buying it. I think this is a pick 'em.
1.5.
Who?
I'll give it to you. BYU.
Okay. I respect
TCU at Kansas.
Good grief. Kansas, 7.
I agree with you. Bloom, this is only 1.5.
What?
Doesn't that seem like borderline unbelievable to you?
That's not borderline. That is unbelievable to me. Something going on in Kansas we don't know about?
I don't know.
That game is an Arrowhead, but that doesn't really matter. Weird.
Wild.
That's
sus. Weird, wild stuff right there. I would pound Kansas on that. All right, Cincinnati at Texas Tech.
How about Texas Tech was not my Gold Platinum Plus Elite Pro lock.
You're
It was
2-2
close.
on your Gold Platinum Plus Elite locks of the week.
Thank you. They looked good. Who do they play?
Cincinnati.
In Lubbock?
Yep.
Ooh, 10.
7.5.
Okay.
Colorado at Central Florida.
I think this could get away from Dion real fast here. UCF 9.
11.5.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, I would note, could you draw up a worse matchup for Dion right now?
Nope.
Because that is a grinded out, physical. I mean, that's what UCF is trying to do.
After a long-ass plane ride into the heat of Central Florida. No thanks.
Finally, Arizona at Utah.
Arizona got a bye week this week, right?
Yes.
They needed it. Utah, still Cam Rising, question marks, 12.5.
9.5.
Ooh, they're giving. Beware of that game. I'm just put it out there. Be careful.
Well, that's what I said with Utah. I think that if you bet them at plus 175, that's not great value for a team with major quarterback injury problems.
Correct. And
They deserve to be the favorite in this league, but they are not head and shoulders above anyone.
no, I mean, if I'm me, and I can't do this, but Iowa State at 7-1 is so much better value than Utah at 175.
Absolutely.
That's
yeah,
interesting.
That's it. We have a pretty quiet week in the Big 12.
I'm gonna say Arizona's a live dog on that game. I've got a sneaky suspicion that one comes down to the wire.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Here's your times because the Big
Yes.
12 6-date all this. Oklahoma State at Kansas State is 11 a.m. on ESPN. BYU at Baylor, 11 a.m. on FS1. TCU, Kansas, 2:30 ESPN Plus. I thought Iowa State would get that spot with Houston, but I was wrong. Colorado, Central Florida, 2:30 on Fox. Iowa State, Houston gets the 6 o'clock window on FS1. Cincinnati, Texas Tech, ESPN2 at 7. Big 12 after dark. Arizona, Utah, 9:15 on ESPN.
I'm telling you, that game sets up to get a little wacky. Get a little wacky in Salt Lake.
Little weird, wild stuff.
What's the ticket price going for the Iowa State Houston game?
$12.
What, $12?
$12 will get you in the stadium.
You think?
Well,
Or
that's
do you
what
know
it
that?
says on ESPN.com. It
Okay,
says
well,
tickets as low as $12.
Yep, I can get one on old Ticketmaster.
Vivid seats, $12.
Yeah, $15.
You can get right behind the Iowa State sideline right now for $35.
Hey.
Like that level.
Oh my God, you're right. Okay, so there's
Lower
gonna
level
be
seats around this place are going for like $20.
there's
I'm
gonna
serious.
be how many Iowa State? I mean, it might be half and half.
Oh yeah, it'll be close. I mean,
Be
there's
close,
gonna be a
right?
ton of Iowa State
Yeah,
fans.
gonna be a lot of them.
Looks like they put their students in the end zone. I'm just seeing if we can buy up some like premium seats. You know, where
It appears they have a club section behind the home bench. I don't know if that'd be the best place for us, though.
I don't think we'd fit in very well there. I'm staring down the barrel of section 127 for $35.
Or do you think Coach Mauser would just have us in the booth?
Helping him call plays.
Yeah.
Elite
Yeah.
play caller. I'm calling it
He's
right
been-
now.
he's been really
This
good.
guy's-
He's been really good.
He is more my style. Hear me out. I'm not saying that he's going to be with Coach McVay and the Rams. I'm watching them right now. They just tied it up with Purdy. I don't know. But I'm telling you, like, this son of a gun is aggressive, and I like it. Aiden created that meme for me yesterday. It looks like Taylor Mauser's like 13 years old on the body of Gladiator. Are you not entertained? And then they're just shoving it down their throat. They had to get to 50.
Yeah,
I mean,
50 burger.
we're sitting out there watching this horrible game. You got to give us 50.
You got to get the 50 burger. And then how about that? How about that little fake dive by Rocco over the top to Bramer?
Fantastic.
Awesome.
I don't know how Bramer caught that either, but he's Ben Bramer.
Ben Bramer.
He's like 9 feet tall.
Should be fun, everybody.
Yeah, enjoy it. We'll give you an update on the direct flights to Houston.
If
I
anybody
can also
has
see this just being you and me are up until 3 a.m. after that game in my basement too.
we'll figure it. If anybody has a private plane and is going and has 2 extra seats,
What about Mechdyne 1?
Well, I know he listens. I mean, we could just ask him, but peer pressure works.
But if we just ask him, then it seems like we're asking. Then if we
correct,
just
we're not asking.
Aggressive.
I'm just if there is somebody
on the Facebook or on the not the Facebook on the podcast.
If somebody has a private plane, let us know.
I'm not doing no layover. I'm only going
we're not
if I go
doing
direct.
layover.
So that
We're not going to Dallas. We're not going to DFW. That's going to end poorly.
I will say this: Iowa State should win this game. It'll be an interesting game though, because I actually wish that Houston would have played better against Cincinnati.
Yeah,
not that Iowa State will look past them or anything like that. It's just I could see the fan base like having really inflated expectations into this. Like, well, if Cincinnati beat them by 35, like it's still a road game, and they are well coached. They're going to keep getting better. I would guess they learn from whatever happened. Just something to keep in mind. Willie Fritz is good, man. This isn't like there's 2 things like the Campbell program, right? Like think back to his first year. It's very similar where you're so bad early, and then at the end of the year you're like, we have a competitive football team. That's where they're at.
Great example.
And then you had like the end of the Holgerson era there last year, kind of the end of the Rhodes era, where it's just like you're just holding on to your seat every time you go out there. Everybody's tense. That's not where this Houston program is right now. They will get better.
Yes, they are not in a destruction. Like great example. This feels a lot like to me where Campbell was his first year. Remember that year? Again, this was probably their TCU game. Iowa State went to TCU in 2016, lost by 40.
This is a building moment.
Holy smokes! And then the next week came back. I think it was Baylor, played them all the way to the fourth quarter, blew the game late. But I think again, Houston has a good coach. It has a good quarterback. He has not played well in the last couple of years, but it's there. The talent is there. And yeah, that's a long day in Houston too. Like if you would ask me what game I would prefer from a competitive standpoint, would like that game to be a morning game. Just get it over with. But that's 6 o'clock. That's a long day. So, and I'm going to look it up. I'll have it for the show on Wednesday, C-Dubs. But I'm going to look up the last time Iowa State was a double-digit road favorite in the Big 12. I bet it's been I bet it hasn't happened very often.
I would agree. All right. Thank you to Aiden Wyatt. Adds a lot to the show on YouTube. So many people watching on YouTube now. Almost surpassing our podcast audience, believe it or not. So if you haven't subscribed, go to that Cyclone Fanatic YouTube page, and you can do that, and you can see our beautiful faces as well.
And if anybody wants
to listen to Jacqueline, Jirel, Colin, and Jake, they'll be recording tonight as well.
If anybody wants this hat, go to shopwewill.com.
That's a dope hat.
It's the Conrad Hawley special.
That's a dope hat. I've been using the word dope a lot lately, and I don't know why.
I think we're probably too old to say that word.
Well,
it's okay.
Yeah. All right, watching a Brock Purdy game-winning drive right now.
There you go. We'll go tune it in. Cheers, everybody.
We'll be back on Wednesday, kicking it with Jeff and Grant as well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We appreciate each and every one of you. Go Cyclones.